Hi everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now starting our Facebook Live for our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. This is something that we have been doing every Monday at 6 p.m. Central US time. Just so you know, we are going to take some time off for the holiday season. We've been doing that for the last couple of years, so we're going to do that again this time. So if you're watching the replay, just letting you know, we are going to take a break from Thanksgiving all the way through New Year, and then we will start our Facebook Lives back again after the New Year. So if you're not already a part of the Facebook group, then I invite you to go to Facebook, type in Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and go ahead and join. Click the join option for the group, not the page. That's a different thing. Join the group. You do have to answer 3 basic questions because we want to weed out anybody who's not the right fit, or like robots and stuff like that that are just trying to join random groups. So you will have to answer 3 questions, and then you can join, and then you'll be able to join us live. So today's topic is all about energy vampires, what they are, and 3 tips to manage dealing with energy vampires. Now, my goal is I'm going to be pretty targeted with this topic today. There's a whole lot that I could cover regarding energy vampires, but today we're going to kind of keep it short and sweet. So I'm going to give you a definition of what they are, and then I'm going to give you 3 tips. Now, we're doing this Facebook Live right before, right before Thanksgiving. So this is just in time for the holiday season, but these tips will apply year-round, okay? But before we jump into our topic, for anybody who's new to my videos and everything that I offer, I want to give you a few ways that you can keep in touch with me and get more information. I have a lot of free content online, and also classes and programs that you can sign up for. So grab a pen and paper and write this down. My website is www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there's a lot of free stuff on there that you can click on the free videos on the top of the menu, and you'll be able to find also whatever programs I'm offering. Excuse me, I always have 2 programs. At least at this current time, I have 2 programs. And one of them is focused on really in-depth psychic protection training. So this is for people wanting to learn this for themselves, and also energy healers, spiritual teachers, spiritual leaders who are wanting to learn how to do this work in order to be of assistance for their clients and their students. So I have that program, and it's a 6-month program. And then I also have a program that's more focused on personal transformation and spiritual empowerment. And that is a whole amazing program. I'm actually going to be enrolling for that program coming up really soon. I don't usually enroll both of the programs at the same time. So right now enrollment is closed. So it's November 2018. Right now enrollment is closed for the Psychic Protection Program until we have our next cycle that opens up in like 3 or 4 months. But the Spiritual Empowerment Academy is getting ready to open. So if you want to work with me, that would be the way to do it. And hey, Debbie, wonderful to see you on here. And I have warmed up. It's the middle of the winter. Well, it's not the middle of the winter. It feels like the middle of the winter. It's chilly out here in Kansas City, out on the Kansas prairie. So, but I warmed up my house plenty. Normally we have a lot of people joining us live, but we don't today. That is okay. No worries. So that gave me the opportunity to give a little spiel for anybody who might be new or needing more information. You can go to the website and get more information about whatever programs are enrolling right now. And then also youtube.com There's a channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and there's tons of free videos on there to at least help you get started. So as many of you already know, I have a lot of free content that I put out, these weekly Facebook Lives, all of the videos on YouTube. But if you want to go deeper, then those are my ongoing programs. This is what I have committed my life to full time. So my days and my weekends are my days, my evenings, my weekends are all about helping teach and empower you all. So the programs, there is a fee for those, but there's lots of free stuff too, so you can dive in right away. Okay, so let's get to our topic, all about energy vampires. They're sometimes called psychic vampires. Oh, and Debbie is saying Liberty has been pretty nice today. Oh, good. Maybe it was kind of sunny out there. Cool. So energy vampires, also sometimes called psychic vampires. I'm going to go ahead and define them. So there's two different kinds, basically. There's the type that's a spiritual entity. So it's not a physical person. It's a spiritual entity. There's tons of different kinds of spiritual beings, but we'll just keep it simple and say it's a spiritual entity that attaches to a person in order to source energy from them. Now, I'm just bringing this up because it is a prevalent issue. This is very common, and I help a lot of people with this issue. However, with the holidays coming up, we're going to be focusing more on the other kind of energy vampire. So in this video, we're not really talking about how to deal with the entity kind, okay? But I'm sure I'll talk about that at another time. So the second type of energy vampire is a person. So it's a person who tends to hook in energetically into other people and tends to suck their energy. Now, let me give you an example. So can you think of anybody in your life where every time you spend time with them, or anytime they call you up on the phone, anytime you're engaging with them, you just feel like really tired or maybe really depressed afterwards? That can be a sign that that person is an energy vampire. Or at least they have that kind of engagement with you where they're hooking in and sucking your energy. Now, most people don't realize that they are being an energy vampire. Like, most people are not thinking to themselves, I'm going to hook into this person and drain their energy and make them tired and depressed. No, most people are not that self-aware that they're even doing that. Most people are, like I said, not that self-aware, and they are doing it unconsciously. And most people in the world aren't really aware of what they're doing with their energy either. So it's both behavioral. The energy vampire thing is behavioral, and it's also energetic. So by behavioral, I mean there's usually a lot of drama, or oh, poor me. So they always have some kind of drama that's really over the top. Now, let's be real. Everybody in their life has drama sometimes. It's just part of living, okay? But this type of person has like huge amounts of unnecessary drama where they're either taking a regular situation and they're like multiplying it and making it this big, way bigger thing than it really needs to be, or they're creating their own drama, right? Or they're just like really living the martyr type of archetype, like, oh, poor me, I have to do all of this for all these people. And anyway, so they always have a negative story to share with you. They're always full of drama. They may or may not be attacking you getting angry with you, attacking you. They might be super nice. It could be either way. They could be super nice with you, but they're still full of drama. They're still living the martyr archetype. Okay. And then, so aside from how they're acting interpersonally with you, energetically, what's happening on a subtle level, usually without their awareness, is that they're hooking what's called an energy cord. So it's like a little tube from part of their energy field onto yours. And it's like plugging an electrical cord into an electrical outlet. So it just fits, right? So if you are someone who perhaps doesn't have the best boundaries, and that's something that you're needing to work on, then it's very easy for an energy vampire to plug in. Okay. There's more that I'm going to say about this, but I just want to say hi to a couple more people who just joined. Dina and Maylene and Lynn. Lynn's brand new, so good to see you. So I want to also clarify. Oh, and Jane from Brooklyn. Good to see you. Want to also clarify. So far I've been defining like an energy vampire. This is who they are. And the way that I'm describing it, it's like all of it's accurate, but we need to really understand that people are complex. And normally I think we have a tendency to think of like those energy vampires, like they are, this person's a vampire and like that's who they are, right? But oftentimes there's a spectrum, and like sometimes you might be acting like an energy vampire. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Sometimes people will act like an energy vampire just temporarily. And it could be that they're going through an illness or a really difficult time. And so they are, maybe in a weakened state emotionally, physically. And so even though they don't mean to, they are hooking in and sucking the energy from the people around them. And maybe they don't usually do that. So it's just a temporary phenomenon that's happening. And other people, you can probably think of people where the entire time that you've known them, they are like their overriding energy is that of an energy vampire. They just suck the energy of everybody around them, and they're just like a super martyr, right? So that's a little more extreme on the spectrum. But just remember that we don't want to be like demonizing like that person is an energy vampire, because like I said, sometimes you might have been an energy vampire, maybe in a certain period of your life when you were younger, maybe before you healed, did some inner healing. Maybe you were in that role, or maybe in a particular romantic relationship, you can think back, or a certain friendship, you can think back and you're like, oh, maybe you were the energy vampire in that relationship. It's not always the other person, right? So we need to be humble about that and not always be thinking like when we go to a family gathering that like that person's the energy vampire. The other thing that we need to be humble about is remembering that it takes two to have that energy vampire dynamic. Now, if someone is really embodying being an energy vampire, then they're going to be that way no matter what. They're going to find someone to act that out with. If they're acting it out with you, then what that means is that you have some work to do regarding boundaries and discernment and managing your energy. And that's true for all of us. So we all have work to do in that area. So if there's someone who sucks you dry every time you talk to them on the phone, well, okay, now you recognize there's something going on there. And now I'm going to recommend that you consider following some of these tips that I'm going to give you. So I'm going to give you 3 tips. And welcome, Anne. Good to see you. And I don't remember if I said hi to Melissa yet, but hello, Melissa. Good to see everybody. Make sure you share where you're joining from, just because we have different people on here every time. And just because I know you doesn't mean everyone else does. So before we go into our 3 tips, do you have any questions, or do you have like a story that you'd like to share? Are you watching this and thinking, oh my God, I'm thinking of this certain person in my life who's an energy vampire. Like, what is it that they're doing? Of course, without giving any identifying information, because we don't want to do that. But do you want to share a story or stories? And like, how has being around them impacted you? Are they a family member, a friend, a coworker, etc.? And Anne is telling us she's joining us from Joplin, Missouri. So go ahead and share. And I want to let you know that when you share your story, that helps other people understand, because I'm just giving basic information here. But when you share your story, it helps other people understand the dynamic a little better. And there might be some factors that perhaps you hadn't recognized before in your own life. So as we're waiting to see if there's any questions or comments coming through, I want to ask you a couple of questions. I already asked this before, but think about this. Can you think of anybody in your life presently who you would consider an energy vampire? And again, we're not using that as like a name calling kind of thing, just as an identifier in your own mind, right? So is there anyone you can think of that really sucks your energy dry, that really has an energy vampire dynamic with you? Okay, and if it's yes, then think about who that is and what the dynamic is. If it's no, think back to earlier in your life, because often as we get older, hopefully we get wiser. And hopefully part of that is learning to develop better boundaries, better discernment. So some of us might say no right now, but in the past we would say yes. So, was it a romantic relationship, a spouse, family member, coworker, friend, acquaintance? And what were the interactions? Was it like phone calls? Were they calling you all the time, just like telling you all their problems? Or maybe it wasn't a whole bunch of drama, but it was more subtle. Every time you would get together, afterwards, you would feel really depressed and they would feel better. So it was like a little energy swap that happened. That's also something that can happen, right? Okay, so far we don't have any comments or questions. So I'm going to go on to our 3 tips. Now, my intention today is to keep it really simple. This is not an in-depth, comprehensive 90-minute class about energy vampires. This is just like a real quick tips to help get you ready for the holidays. But remember, this is going to apply to year-round. So if you are an overachiever like me, then I want you to grab a pen and paper. Even if you're not an overachiever, I want you to grab a pen and paper, because these 3 simple tips, it's likely you might forget them later, even though they're really simple. Write them down. That will help solidify them in your mind. And we've got a couple comments. So while people are grabbing pen and paper, let's go back and look at these comments. Lynn is saying, for me, I recognize the drama that surrounds them first. Yeah, so that's the first identifier for you. Jane says, I've been thinking about someone who's very passive aggressive and deflects, male toxicity type. And I am thinking it is a form of engaging and getting a certain kind of energy from me. Yeah, sorry that you're going through that. And I'm glad that you shared, because I hadn't really mentioned the passive aggressive tendency. Passive aggressive kinds of interactions can be the kind of thing that an energy vampire might do. There's different behaviors, and they all show up differently. And you might be attracting a certain kind of energy vampire, while someone else, like one person might attract more of the quiet energy vampire, for example, but when they're done spending time with them, they feel depressed and drained. And then another person might have the very vocal, drama, woe is me. And then it sounds like Jane, there's a certain type here that with this particular person. So everybody's different. And I think right now, just with this sharing, it's just helping you do a little evaluation of identifying, oh, I think there's an issue here. And then perhaps those people, those situations would be ones where you would apply these 3 tips. Debbie is saying, definitely in the past. Yeah, I can say that for sure with myself as well. I had a lot of energy vampires in my life in the past, and I had to learn how to heal. For myself, it was learning to heal a lot of codependent patterns. And now codependent patterns have to do with, really wanting to fix people and heal people and really going overboard with it and wanting to do things for others that they should be doing for themselves. So there's a lot of enabling that happens. So I had a lot of healing to do with codependent patterns. And so once I worked on healing that for several years, then I wasn't attracting all of the needy, like the overly unhealthy level of neediness kind of people into my life, where they were expecting me to heal them energetically and they would plug in and suck me dry. And I just started saying no to all of those people because it's not serving them and it's not serving me or you to be fixing anybody. That's not a healthy behavior. So that was kind of the dynamic that I was working through. Lauren is saying, my mother-in-law, she just plain exhausts me with her constant complaining on her health, but will not do anything about it. I have to take a nap after spending time with her. Yeah, that is exhausting. Constant complaining is definitely one of the patterns of an energy vampire. And even more so when there's complaining, but then not wanting to take any action to help their own situation. And it's almost like they're addicted to complaining. That's actually what brings meaning, even though it's not healthy. It's what's bringing meaning into their life at a level of attention and excitement. Jane is saying, in regarding her past comment, and I was wondering your thoughts about that kind of dynamic. Okay, let me look again. Someone who's very passive aggressive and deflects. Yeah, I mean, it is an energy exchange that's happening. And I'm being reminded right now of something that actually applies not only to your situation, Jane, but to all of the people who are really actively doing a lot of energy vampirism. And often it's behaviors that they learned as a child. Okay. So usually these are behaviors that they've learned growing up. They observed it in a certain role model or role models. They learned like that's how they get attention or that's how they get power, that sort of thing. So this was learned behavior. Remember, everybody, that you probably can't fix that person or change them. And it's not your job to do so. It's your job to set boundaries. So try not to get into the fixing, codependent kind of thing, which I know you all wouldn't, but I'm just giving that reminder. So you won't be able to fix that person or change them, but what you can do is set boundaries, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. So Jane, that applies to your situation, and then and everybody, because I was going to mention that anyway. These are learned behaviors. And whether the person is exhibiting, like whether it's verbal and social kinds of activity, kinds of actions that they learned, and or energetic, like they learned on a subtle level when they were young to source energy through other people rather than in the correct way, which is sourcing energy from the planet, sourcing energy from divine source. And, most of us don't have a role model who's blatantly teaching us that. But if we have a really healthy, balanced family unit and support system growing up, then we will learn that in subtle ways. If there's a lot of dysfunction, which most, let's be real, most families, that's kind of the norm, right? So if there's a lot of dysfunction, then we can learn all sorts of different unhealthy behaviors and ways of interacting with the world energetically. And for some people, that includes sourcing energy from others. Lauren is saying, drama is a huge red flag for me. I run the other way. Yeah, me too. Me too. But I was raised in a household where there was a lot of dysfunction and there was mental illness. I was adopted. And, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I didn't say no to all the drama because I thought it was normal, because that was all I had ever known. So it took a lot of healing of all of that in order to finally understand. And it's like a no-brainer now. But it took a lot of healing to finally understand that, oh, that's not okay. Like, that's not healthy. And to be able to say no to that. So, give your inner child a lot of self-love and compassion if you've been saying yes to a lot of drama because you just simply didn't know better. And I just know in my heart that there are people that are going to be watching this video that applies to you, that you've been allowing a lot of drama and allowing, on some level, allowing energy vampires to suck you dry. And it's simply because that's all that you've ever known. And just know that it doesn't need to be that way, that there are plenty of people who will not suck you dry. And there are lots of healthy people who will engage with you in a more balanced sort of way. Anne is saying, a family member monopolizes conversations, usually about others that I don't know, taking everyone's inventory and making themselves look better. Yes, monopolizing conversations is definitely another behavior that is pretty common with energy vampires. So as I'm going through these, everybody, are there any things that you have done in the past or currently that you are doing that seem to help you manage engaging with some of these energy vampire behaviors? Okay, so start sharing now, because there is a little bit of a lapse. It takes a little while for your comments to come through. Jarinka is saying, I think my sister might have an energy attached to her. I'm not sure if you saw my post, but whatever it is, it's exhausting her. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Now, you might go ahead and take a look at some of the other videos on my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary, because today's video is more about people who are energy vampires, and there are other kinds of energy vampires that are spiritual entities. We're not really getting into that today. We're just staying focused on our topic at hand. But there's a lot, actually most of the videos on YouTube are about spiritual beings and less about people issues. So you might find what you want on there. There's a playlist that's something about psychic self-defense with Maya. That's probably the playlist that you want to go through. There's many hours of videos on there. Okay. And I'm not sure if I saw your comment or not online. So if I haven't responded, you might want to send me a message maybe. Let's see. Debbie is saying, yes, lots of codependent stuff, the passive aggressive stuff. I did lots of work on boundaries and identifying what's mine and what's theirs. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is such a great class today. All of your comments are so important, and I feel like are so helpful for other people to hear as well. The simple act of identifying what's yours and what's theirs, helping to discern that is so important. It helps you to disentangle all of that codependency. When there's codependence, there's like an enmeshment of your energy and theirs, and it's all this big tangly web, and it's really hard to set boundaries that way. So you have to get really clear on, okay, this is my stuff, this is their stuff. They're trying to blame me for it, or make me guilty for it, or make me apologize for, whatever they're projecting. But I think we just lost our connection. Okay, we're back. Good. So really distinguishing what's yours and what's theirs is a really important skill. Let's see. Oh, welcome, Crystal. Good to see you. Lauren is saying, Jane, I have an ex-husband, I'm not sure if that's, okay, Jane, I have ex-husband, very, very firm boundaries. I think maybe that was supposed to be a different word. With him, sometimes if there's words missing, it's hard to figure it out. I have an ex-husband, something very firm boundaries with him. My experience is I would see very dark figures, things I've never seen at pickups and drop-off for the kiddos is when I normally would experience this. I have now found a safe distance away from him so I don't go into his very dark hate for me. Yeah, and there with that kind of situation, since we're kind of defining things here, it sounds like that's not just some energy vampire stuff, but psychic attack. If there's hatred coming from him and it's affecting you, it's like poison arrows. So it's with an energy vampire, it's a phenomenon where they're hooking in and sucking your energy dry, where you feel exhausted, depleted, maybe mentally foggy. With psychic attack, it's more, imagine like energy daggers coming from them and piercing your energy field and causing your energy to leak out that way. And, a person can be some of both. Okay. And Jane is saying her solution has been saying no, LOL. Yeah, learning to say no. That is so simple and yet not simple, right? And Jarinka is saying, thank you. That's perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. Love and light to you as well, Jarinka. Lynn is saying so for solutions, raising vibrations is very important for me. If I stay in an energy of love, I don't think they have the ability to latch on. Yeah, I agree with that. So for me, it has to be this balance of love and discernment and clarity. Because sometimes when spiritual seekers go into an energy of love, it's more like doormat love. It's like very codependent, like allowing people to do whatever. I don't feel like, just my gut says that's not really what you're saying, Lynn, but I'm just throwing this in here because there's a lot of that in the spiritual community, this like, quote, unconditional love that involves a lot of enabling people to do things that are not really that good for them to be doing. So setting boundaries is a very loving act. And when you're setting boundaries and doing it from a loving space rather than a pushback sort of way, like combative, how dare you try to suck my energy dry, that usually doesn't have the best effect, whereas really staying grounded and centered within your own energy, being in a space of love, and yet also being really clear that that's not okay with me, and so I need to say no to that. That is the optimal balance that we all want to reach. Welcome, Marietta. And Lynn is also saying, it also helps me determine what is mine because I know if it's coming from a place of love, it's mine. Good. That sounds like a great practice for you. And good evening to you, Marietta. Lynn is saying, I like that word, discernment. Yes, I use that word a lot. It's very important. I think there's a need for a lot more discernment. So it's something to keep working on. Okay, so hopefully you all grabbed your pen and paper. And I'm going to give you 3 tips. And Debbie says what she does to help with the energy vampire issue. She says, I turn on my Reiki, and then I can be in control of when and how much energy they are allowed from me. Okay, you know what? If that sounds like it's working for you. So everybody's going to have different techniques that they use, and if it's working for you, then awesome. Okay, grab your pen and paper. These, again, are 3 simple tips. Not super complicated, but sometimes simple is better. Tip number 1 for dealing with an energy vampire is limit contact. Limit contact. Energy vampires are great at making that visit or that phone call go on and on and on until you are just beyond exhausted. And so every situation is going to be different. You're going to have to decide. There are some situations where it is so toxic and they drain you so much and they are so not able or not willing to grow or shift out of this behavior. And it's to the point where you really feel that it's harmful to you. And you've already tried to set boundaries and they are not having any of it. So there are circumstances where you do have to cut off contact completely or temporarily, either temporarily or permanently. And sometimes that does need to happen, even if it's a family member, even if it's someone that you care about, even if it's someone who is in your circle of friends or what have you. So sometimes you do have to make that choice. So there's a spectrum. You might, have to cut off contact all the way, or what's more common is to modify your amount of contact. So I know with when my adopted mother was still alive, I still wanted. Well, actually, there were periods where I had to remove contact completely because it was so toxic. But there were other times when we were in contact and I had to make a decision. I had to think, how much time can I talk to her during our weekly phone call before she starts to really activate her energy vampire behaviors? And I realized that we could usually go about 10 minutes before she would really become more abusive and high drama. So I would get on the phone, or either she would call me or I would call her. I would look at the clock first thing. I'd be like, okay, 10 minutes. And so when 10 minutes would hit, I would say, okay, well, I have to go do such and such. I got to go. Now she would still be, because she was not someone who honored boundaries like ever. She would still be talking. She would talk over me. She would be like, oh, but I need to tell you about, well, okay, I got to go now. Love you so much. Bye. Click. So I didn't hang up on her. I would tell her I was hanging up, but I sort of was hanging up on her because she was still talking. As some of you were saying, to stay in a space of love, to stay in that space of love, you don't have to be like, would you just shut up already? That's not going to help, but to just state clearly and set the boundary. Okay. So if it's 10 minutes, I noticed when I would go and visit, I could usually visit for a half a day before, things really got into the really toxic behaviors. So I would schedule accordingly. Okay, so every situation is different, every person is different. Your ability to manage those energies is going to be different and at different times in your life. So figure out what that is, how you're going to limit contact. If it's a family member and you usually talk on the phone, or if it's a friend who calls you all the time, limit it to maybe once a week, or figure out what's going to work for you. So limit, how often and how much time. Okay. And then you have to follow through on that. You have to extract yourself at that point. You can't just you say, "Oh, they're not letting me get off the phone." No, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. You have to do what you need to do, right? So you need to say, "Okay, bye," and hang up, even if they're still talking, okay? Because they are trying to be in control. It's a power thing. You have to state what is going to happen. I'm leaving now or whatever. And then you need to do it. Okay. So that's number one, limit contact. Number two is self-awareness. What I mean by this is that it's going to be important for you to have an ongoing practice throughout the day, just as you're living your life, of self-awareness. So throughout the day, checking in with yourself, how am I feeling right now? And I'll give you an example. This was like 3 years ago. I was working I had an energy healing client who I'd been working with for a while. And by the way, this is not about her. This is my story. So I noticed as soon as as the session was done and I walked her out the door and I said goodbye and I closed the door, I noticed all of a sudden I felt so tired. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm exhausted. So tired." And then I thought about it and I realized the last couple of sessions, I had also felt really tired right afterwards. And here's the thing. That's not really her fault. I think there's a common tendency to be like, that person's being an energy vampire. Okay, so maybe that's what was happening. Yes. But it was my responsibility, and in your situations, it's your responsibility to manage your own energy. Okay. So what I did right away, I went, "Ooh, okay." So I was being self-aware. I noticed that I suddenly felt different than before. Like, "Ooh, I suddenly feel really tired," or "I suddenly have a headache," or "I suddenly feel really depressed." And I'm suddenly feeling different than before. So what's that about? Is that mine? Or is that something that's occurring because there was just an energy vampire exchange that just happened? And I realized, ooh, I think there's been some energy vampire exchange of, a loss of energy due to that. And so I had a little break. And so I went outside and I recharged my energy in the way that I like to. And then the next time that I was with her, I was more aware of the fact that that exchange was happening. Now, as an energy healer, it's even more my responsibility to have an awareness because I know about energy. But even for everyday regular people, you have the ability to discern if someone, if you're having that kind of exchange with someone, if you feel exhausted or depleted afterwards. So in future appointments, I was more aware. And so I did a better job of maintaining my energy. At no point did I say to her, "You're being an energy vampire. You're sucking my energy." No, that's really, I can't think of any scenario where that's actually appropriate. That's just not really the right course. It's really more about working on yourself. So in that story that I just told, it was about self-awareness, recognizing when you have those little shifts in your energy. And again, not not needing to demonize the other person, but recognizing that it takes two. And on some level, you're allowing that. And it's okay. Just give yourself some self-compassion and work on managing your energy better. So speaking of managing energy, let's talk about tip number 3. So our first 2 tips were more, the first one is about like action, taking action. The second one is more mental and also feeling, like tapping into your feeling. The third tip is more spiritual. And this is, there's actually 2 parts to this. And if you're in a scenario where you suddenly feel that energy vampire kind of exchange, and you're like, oh, what's happening? Aunt Sally is like sucking my energy dry. Let's say you're at Thanksgiving, okay? You're at a holiday event or some other work thing that you can't leave, right? So what can you do? So there's 2 steps to this part. The first thing that you're going to do is remove yourself. And there's a real easy excuse that you can use for this. You just say, excuse me, I just need to go use the restroom. And so you leave and you go into the bathroom. Now, you don't have to be in a bathroom. I've confused people before when I've just explained this. They've thought that like you have to be in a bathroom to do this step. No, you can be anywhere. You can say, excuse me, I need to go get a breath of fresh air, or I need to go get a drink of water, or whatever. But when you're in the bathroom, you can close the door and there's no one watching you and no one wondering what you're up to. So it's a private space. Or you can just go into a bedroom or some side room, or if you're at work, go into a side office or go into the bathroom stall and close yourself in. So part A of this third tip is to remove yourself. And part B is this 3-step process: release, call back, and grid of protection, which in my notes, I write down GOP, grid of protection. So let's actually learn this right now. This is a simplified, very, very simplified version of a protocol that I teach in my programs, both of my programs. So release, what that's talking about is releasing any energies that don't belong to you, or even some of your own energies that have gotten triggered, that have bubbled up to the surface, and some of your inner wounds or inner shadow have just like really come out, and you're feeling some of that and maybe feeling some of the other person's stuff too. So you want to release anything that's no longer serving you. Now, since you're in the bathroom or some private space, you can use your body to do this, and no one's going to be wondering what you're up to. So I do like to use a physical movement with this because it helps to, bring it more into reality. Whereas if you're just thinking it in your mind, sometimes it's hard to like really get it super clear. So for this part of releasing, I will say something like, I release anything that doesn't serve me. And then I bring my hands up, my arms up, and I push down my midline. So, and I'll inhale, I release anything that doesn't serve me. And I just push it down. I just sweep it down like that. So try that right now, you guys. So I release anything that doesn't serve me. And breath is also a really powerful way to move energy. And it's a way of really coming into your power as well. So that's the first part. I release anything that doesn't serve me. It can even be some of your own beliefs that are coming up. It can be some of the energy from the other person. It can be anything. So I release. Second part of this is calling back your power. So what you might say is, I call my energy back to me now. Go ahead and write that down. I call my energy back to me now. And I usually make some kind of arm movement like, I sweep my arms out to the side and I bring it into my heart. I call my energy back to me now. And then I take a moment and I just like feel like streams of light coming back into my energy field, calling back any energy from that person. So any energy that that person has sucked away, or that I've intentionally given, like unintentionally given to that person. Maybe I've given my energy away because that's part of my pattern that I'm needing to heal. So any energy that you've given away or that has leaked out of you, I call my energy back to me now. And then the third part of that is a grid of protection. And again, this is a very simplified version of a technique that I teach in my programs. But the simplified version, just to keep things simple today, is to visualize around your energy field. So beyond your physical body, you have a field of energy that's called your aura. And it's about arm's width around your body. So it's like a big egg shape or big oval shape. It even goes below your feet. So it doesn't end at the floor. It goes, a couple of feet below the bottoms of your feet and a couple of feet above the top of your head. And we want to create a grid of protection around the boundaries, around the outer edges of your aura, so that your energy isn't just easily sucked away. This is really common for empaths and people who are sensitive, that they'll go into a space where there's a lot of chaos energy happening and their energy will just get sucked away, like somebody hooked a vacuum cleaner and sucked their aura out, and then there's just like nothing here, and then they're super tired. So you want to create boundaries around the edges of your aura so that you're actually holding your energy in. And also it's a little harder for other people to plug in when you have good energy boundaries that you've consciously set up. Now, just as a side note, some people will visualize like a white light around you or a golden light. I have found, for me personally, and also for a lot of my students, that this grid of protection seems to work more effectively. But if there's something different that works for you, use that. It is okay. So by grid of protection, I'm talking about a grid like graph paper lines, a grid that's made of light. And it's a filter. Think of like a filter, right? And it's this filter of light that's going around the whole boundaries, the entire boundaries of your aura. So when I say grid of protection, it's a grid of light that's in the shape of a big oval or a big egg shape around the boundaries of your aura. And it helps to create a boundary, a filter, parameters for where your energy ends and theirs begins. So it helps to avoid that enmeshment, tangling that can happen with some relationships. So there's 3 parts to this third tip, or actually 4 parts. So you're going to remove yourself, and then the other 3 steps are release. I release anything that is not for my highest good. Next step, I call my energy back to me now. And then grid of protection. I like to bring my arms up and then like pull. It's hard for you to see, but I'll like pull down. I imagine I'm pulling down like one of those vinyl window shades, those old ones that people used to have, where you like pull it down across the window. It's actually all rolled up in a roller, and then you pull the string and you pull the curtain down. Even though the grid of protection is, we're making like a concave bubble, right? I still think of it as a window shade. So I'm like pulling the window shade down. Again, it's a grid. It's got holes in it because you want to filter out anything that's not for your highest benefit, cannot come through into your bubble. But you don't want to build walls around you. You want to have a filter instead, because you want the good, beneficial energy to be able to come in and support you. So that's part of the grid of protection. So I bring my arms up and I pull down, and then I visualize that I'm closing it underneath my feet. Okay. So release, call back, GOP, grid of protection. Okay. Yeah, stay out of my bubble is what Marietta is saying. Yeah, exactly. So those are some tips that you can try over the Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and holiday season, whatever holidays that you practice. And any time of the year, you can practice this. So, anybody who's watching the replay later, if you practice this, if you have a situation where you have to practice this and then you have a story to tell, come back and make a comment, because this is going to be posted on my YouTube channel. Come back to my YouTube channel, make a comment, and tell us like how it went. Like, oh, my Aunt Eileen was driving me crazy, and so I did this, and this is what happened. So let us know. Definitely practice this and follow up with us. Does anybody have any questions before we head out for the evening? Okay, so just a reminder that normally we've been doing our Facebook Lives every Monday at 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And I clarify that because I do have people who watch all over the world. I'm in Kansas City, outside the Kansas City area. So if you need to look up or compare time zones. So we've been doing it weekly. Remember, though, that we're going to take a break for the holidays. Usually people are super busy, so I just want to honor that everybody's busy. I want to give you this extra time over the holidays on Monday nights. You can focus on other things. And then don't forget, though, put me on your calendar because we will be meeting back up again first thing in January. Usually takes a few Facebook Lives before people remember. And then first couple classes last year were really small. So put it on your reminders, put it on your calendar, 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So whatever the first Monday is. Let me just look at my calendar. Oh, do I have? Nope, I don't have 2019. Anyway, as long as it's not landing on a holiday, the first Monday that lands after New Year's Day, we are going to have our class. And as always, you can submit requests for topics, and I'm happy to explore any of those topics. As always, it was wonderful connecting with all of you. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and that you're able to navigate, all the family members and shoppers and everything while maintaining your healthy energy bubble. Until next time, oh my gosh, I feel a little bit sad because I'm not going to see you guys for a few weeks. But I will see you on the Facebook group. Stay in touch on there. You can always post questions, and I will still be active. I think I tend to be less busy over the holidays, and all of you tend to be more busy because I don't have kids. So I'll be very attentive on there over the holidays, just as much as usual, just no Facebook Lives. So post your questions if you have any, and I'm more than happy to be of support. Until next time, happy holidays. Bye.